E te iwi tēnā koutou, tēnā katoa tātou I roto I tēnei pō. Kia ora everybody, Che Wilson here from Te Pai Pai Waho, connecting to you tonight through a number of platforms, and it's MARAE 101 number 4. And tonight's kaupapa is on service to your marae. So, before I get into things, e mihi ana kia tātou, me te tangi atu ki ngā mate o te wā. E kui te turi, ko koe te more ukuia o uta o te awa wanganui, o ine ngākau, tatu atu ki ngā pāpāringa o te mātāpuna o te moana o taupō, ki ngā timaru anō oki, e rā piringa karangatanga o e wai, e moe, e oki. O ki tonu mai kia tātou ngā mauetanga I o me inei e tangi nei, I roto I tēnei pō, tēnā koutou. Kia ora tātou. Ciao Lily. Good to see everybody tonight. And that's our Italian mother watching from northern Italy. So e mihi ana kia koe Lily, korua ko Papa Flavio. Hoi anō. As I said, tonight is about service to your marae. And what I'm wanting to discuss is what service looks like. Because there's a whole heap of kōrero about tītautanga and tēnā koutou. And I'm not going to cover too much about that, but really service in its broadest context, because sometimes we narrow it down to you've got to pick up a tītau only. And don't get me wrong, tītautanga is important. But what is the broad breadth of service to your marae? So, last week I talked about the whare puni, the whare nui, the whare tupuna, the whare pakairo, and all of the different iterations of the whare. And when I think about service, there are two parts to service. There's service in the front and there's service in the back. And it's really important, if you're new to a marae, not to assume a certain role, but to offer your help rather than assume it. And we've also got to navigate the difference between what you may learn and then what actually happens on the ground. And if you assumed some things, including, well, I should be allowed to do this because I know this, then that can get you into trouble, simply because those that are on the marae and based at the marae are often just, you want to get stuff done. So how you navigate that. So let's start talking about the hands-on mahi, the service in the front and the back. And so the first thing is cleaning, not just the kitchen and the toilets and the wharepuni, but even the front. And so, you know, I'm on the pai, so I always make sure, or try to, make sure that the manuhiri seats have been wiped down. If the concrete needs to be swept, I will sweep that as well. And simply because, you know, it's autumn now, so there's always going to be leaves somewhere. So you always sweep and you clean wherever your manuhiri is going to come to. You make sure you clean the waha of the marae. In our case, there's a big tree, so it often has leaves and all sticks fall. It's a silver birch, and so birch, the bark from the trunk and then the branches are always breaking from the wind. So you've got to clean all of that stuff up. And then the rubbish around the marae, and recognizing that being on the pai pai, whether that's the kai karanga or the kai kōrero, kai waiata, is a big job in itself and a service in itself. Then there's those that work and prepare the wharepuni, and making sure that it's clear, making sure that manuhiri then have a place to sleep, and making sure that the toilet's all ready, through to going down below and having all of the whare kai sorted, having the kai ready, and all of those other things. Growing up, there were definitely ways to set the tables, and depending on me he manuhiri tuarangi, if you had a very important guest come, then you'd bring out extra plates, the special plates and all of that stuff, the china or the Royal Dalton and all of that stuff, the silverware back in the day. And then you'd bring out your nice plates as well. And you'd have different types of, traditionally, maraes all had different types of plates for different occasions. So you'd learnt that in the front of the parekai, and then at the back, all of the preparation, whether that's the baking, all the cooking, or outside. The veggie prep, the meat prep, the hangi, all of those different things were all part of preparation and service to your marae. I think the key thing, though, is there are other ways to give service to your marae other than titautanga, and especially today when people live away from their marae. And so some marae have a family roster where each month it's family X in January, family Y in March, whatever. And so if each family has their roster, then they're expected to mow the lawns at least twice in that month. Some marae might have to be weekly. And so you as a whānau have to work that out, and then you're on the sit-on mower or whatever, or you've got a couple of push mowers to do the lawns and do other things. And especially if you can't get to hui, you live away, and that's one way once a year where you can give back to your marae. Some marae just have people who they pay, or the auntie or uncle who it's their mower. Well, technically it's the marae's, but they've claimed it and they do all of the work. And so each marae works differently. Then you have marae, and another way of service is because you can't get back to your marae, you join the $2 club, where you pay $2 a week, which gives at least $100 a year. As one way of giving. Others have the 100 club, where it's a lotto bonus type fundraiser. And all of these different things help contribute to service to your marae. The other thing to do is, if you know how to fill out government applications and you're not all talk, it's important that you're not all talk when you're offering to do things for the marae, because there are a heap of people who are all talk that offer to do things for the marae and then they're just too busy. But if you can apply for applications and you're really good at it, then that's one way of giving service back to your marae. It's a really good way, because it then helps. It helps the marae, it helps the nannies and the koros, the aunties and uncles and everyone else that might not be able to do that, but you can do it for them. And so just be mindful that your first one, you will be tested to make sure that you're not all talk and you can get the job done. And then if you get the job done, then awesome. And if you get a few $1,000s or even a few $100,000, then you'll be loved. But remember, it's no different to the tea towel or the broom or anything else. And I think that's an important thing, that even though you might be able to get $1 million for your marae, everybody's job is just as important. Whether you sweep the front, whether you use the toilet brush to clean the bowl, or whether you've got a tea towel or a shovel with the hangi, or on the paipai, or the kaikaranga, whatever it is, everybody's role is just important, because it's connected to ensuring that the mana of the collective is upheld. And yet you might have got $1 million for your marae, which is massive. But don't assume that you should then be given extra special treatment. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be grateful, because we should always be grateful for all of the help. But it's just remembering that it's a distributed model where everyone's acknowledged for all of their mahi. And so I just wanted to talk about service to your marae and the importance of that role. And if it's not for the service, our marae wouldn't actually be able to operate. And what I want to finish off with is when it comes to tangihanga. Because sometimes if you're not really connected to your marae, you will want to make a decision where you might want to hold the body for longer than is realistic. And you don't really care about those who have to man the marae for you while you're mourning. And some might say that it's a bit harsh, but in reality, that's why those decisions shouldn't be left with the whānau pani. Those decisions should be left with the paipai, because they know what their people can do and the pressures that they have to go back to work as well. Especially when work don't see your nanny or koro as immediate family. And so we've got to understand and appreciate that a decision around whether it's going to be Wednesday tangi or Thursday tangi can be a massive decision which impacts all of the workers and their ability to serve the marae, serve you, and serve the tūpapaku. So just wanted to share a little bit about service to a marae and the importance of it, and how we then help our people navigate some hard decisions so that service isn't compromised because of decisions that didn't take into account others that are affected by those decisions. Ka tiake, had a beautiful weekend in Pakipaki for our rā wairua there, hina pua raurangi, nā reira mihi kawatua na kia koutou I roto I tēnei pō rire au, pai mārire.